So I do have a couple of other talks that I wanted to tell you about. I have got, I've lost them. Turning Stones, Discovering the Life of Water by Declan McCabe, who is a professor of biology at St. Michael's College. This book is tied into the Vermont Reads program. I don't know if any of you guys know that from the Vermont Humanities. The name of the book this year is called Light Pirate. I gave out 50 copies. They're gone. I'm going to beg for more, so check back in. And he's going to come and talk about Vermont's analog to the rising seawaters described in the Light Pirate has been increased rainfall due to the additional moisture in the atmosphere. The talk will include strategies to minimize stormwater impacts and ways to live with the expectation of additional flooding, which is quite interesting because on VPR today I heard that we are 10 inches under rain right now. So go figure. The AAUW, who always puts on fantastic talks, is going to have a talk at the Johnson Gallery at the Middlebury College on October. Oh, the one I just told you is on the 23rd, if I forgot that. On the 21st is Finding Hope Within by John Vincent. Attendees can look forward to viewing the exhibit, hearing engaging stories about specific featured artists, as well as receiving a printed handout containing references and insights related to the topics discussed. I also do classic films. Do you guys know about the Classic Film Club? Yeah, so that started up. We're usually on Thursday afternoons. We've got two coming up in October. This coming Thursday, the 9th at 1 p.m. at the Marquee Theater. Free movie, free popcorn. We'll be watching Mildred Pierce, Joan Crawford. And then on October 23rd, we'll be watching Even Better, my gal Betty Davis and All About Eve. 1 o'clock. At the theater, free popcorn. How can you say no? And I think that's all I'm going to bore you with, and I'm going to patch over to Philip.
Thank you. I'm going to make this a little bit more intimate and get closer to you.
Good plan.
And
Pass the smelly boots around.
yeah, those aren't too smelly.
Oh, too smelly. Okay.
And,
they don't look smelly.
Let's see. What I'd like to do is just, before I dive into things, is find out just sort of what your experience is and what you want me to talk about. I'm going to do a little reading from the book, which sort of gives you an overview about what it's all about. But I can do just a total beginner talk, or talk, a little bit more about some of the more recent developments in hiking here. In fact, I can do all of them. So what's your preference? Just anyone?
I'd like to hear some of the recent improvements.
Recent improvements? Beginner?
I'm happy with whatever you decide to talk about.
Yeah? Okay. Well,
Aging body parts?
aging body parts?
You're taking my geography.
Why
The different program for that.
don't I do a little of all of that? So,
Sustainability
sustainability, really?
Your tips on
of our
making these work
of
better?
our joints.
What's that?
Can you make my knees work better?
Yeah, I can
We're
actually.
sleeping right now.
Okay, so here I'm just going to read a couple things. This is a book talk, and this is the preface of the book, so you get a sense of what it's about. It's Hiking Over 60, and I have copies for sale if you haven't yet bought one. It seems like everyone has, and they're signed too. Okay. If you're over 60 years old or getting close to it, it can be overwhelming to learn about the latest skills and gear that day hikers and backpackers use. If you hiked when you were younger or you're just starting out, the gear, clothing, footwear, navigation aids, communication tools, and best practices that most hikers use have undergone significant changes over the past 20 years. A little background, I got into this sort of hiking and backpacking thing about 20 years ago. I started a website, sectionhiker.com, and I've been reviewing and gear and teaching people about hiking and backpacking ever since. And it's unbelievable. Things are totally different. So that was kind of one of the motivations. So one of my motivations in writing Hiking Over 60 is to help new hikers and backpackers, as well as more experienced ones, cut through the noise and come up to speed on what modern hiking has become. while it's true that hiking is just walking, hiking culture, best practices, gear, and technology have evolved in ways that make it more accessible than ever for mature hikers. My goal is to help you navigate those changes so you can join the hiking community with confidence and the requisite know-how to hold your own and help others. So as we age, our bodies can require adjustments or modifications to the adventures we undertake, the physical aids, and the hiking gear we use. As I've gotten older, I've had more than my share of physical challenges to manage and overcome, including foot, knee, hip pain, back pain, goes on. And the result of aging, gravity, and too much sitting hunched over a laptop for 40 years. This is something that younger hikers really can't appreciate. So that's some of the motivations. And then sort of what this book is about. So the book is really focused on day hiking. Because really the know-how, experience, and gear that you use for day hikes really form the basis for all the other types of hiking you might try, from supported hut-to-hut hikes abroad, or climbing all the 14,000 footers in Colorado, or even through hiking the Appalachian Trail. Everything builds really on the simple day hiking techniques and gear for comfort and safety. Day hiking is also far more accessible than most other forms of hiking, something you can do wherever you are. It's easier to schedule, lower cost, and easier to find hiking partners. Of the 10,000 miles I've hiked in the past 15 years, I'd say that 60% is day hikes. And I love them, and I still do them all the time. They're great. Okay, so how to use this book. Hiking Over 60 is divided into two parts. Part one is a quick overview of hiking fundamentals that explains the basic skills, gear, and best practices you need to get out on the trail. Learning to hike requires practice and experimentation, so you'll want to try the techniques and skills covered, treating the book as a reference that you can revisit as your skill set and experience evolve. Veteran hikers can also learn from the information presented and brush up on new or outdated skills. Part two is an in-depth hiking gear guide that covers hiking footwear, clothing, trekking poles, physical support aids, including braces, compression sleeves, backpacks, GPS navigation tools and apps, safety and communication devices, and lighting, headlamps. This is key information for beginners, and even veteran hikers are likely to find it useful. Okay, so it's part one and part two. I thought it really important to write the part one part, which is just getting out on the trail. What are the basic things you need? And actually, to that end, if you're interested, I have some suggested items that you might include in a backpack if you're getting out on the trail. I'm just going to hand these out. I'm not going to necessarily talk to them right now, but they're more reference.
We can share.
Okay? Yeah? You might learn something, so.
Okay.
I'll let you guys share.
Thank you. Help we pass again?
Yeah, that'd be great. This is really a compilation of suggested, what we call 10 essentials. Okay?
That's great, thank you.
And it really covers kind of the basic things that you'll put in a backpack. If you want, I can actually quickly run through some of these for you. Here's a backpack. It's about 20 to 22 liters big. I recommend usually between 20 and 30 liters in terms of a backpack size. And the things you want are sun protection, hat, suntan lotion, lighting. This is my headlamp kit. I use headlamps, the rechargeable ones, which are really great. And those extra cords are because I have a battery pack in my pack at all times. So I use a fair number of electronic devices. So I can recharge things, like your phone, right, or a headlamp. I have a foam pad that I can sit on. It's just nice to keep your bum dry, actually. But if you become injured, you actually want to sit on a foam pad or some sort of insulation. or you can carry an emergency blanket, although you really want to use some ground insulation with that. So you don't get hypothermic. The ground is actually surprisingly cold, and if you have to sit on it for an extended period of time, you can get really chilled. I always carry extra clothing. So I'll normally wear this sweater or carry the sweater in the pack. I have, especially this time of year, extra insulation, down anorak, and I have rain gear. Right? And it's Vermont, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to rain a lot. I was telling, what's your name? Garrett. Earlier that or maybe it was Dwight, that, you know, I learned how to hike in the rain in Vermont, like the long trip. And I'm an expert, so when I moved back to Vermont, almost 2 years now ago, I expected to be hiking in rain. Where's the rain? Anyway, and then I keep all my first aid and tools and repair tools in a bag, right? And that's pretty much it. Water, and I have snacks. Oh, and there's more. I'm a big believer in carrying paper maps. I have a bunch. Mainly because with a paper map, this is a good practice to fall into, is whenever you're hiking, you come to a trail junction on the map or a landmark, just look at the map and find out where you are. And that way you're always found and never lost. Okay? The basic stuff, but that in a nutshell is the kind of stuff that, you know, at a minimum you want to carry. Actually, what I didn't actually include it here, because I forgot to put it in here, was all my toilet articles. Whoops. And I'll go over some of those in a second, because they've sort of developed over the years in what common practice or frequent practice is in the hiking community. Okay? Any questions?
What about a first aid kit? Did you have one?
Yes.
I had that all in one bag.
Oh.
I'm sort of a big believer in making your own first aid kit as opposed to buying them. The ones you get at like REI and these places are complete rip-offs. You just go through your common medicines in your medicine cabinet, and sort of put some stuff in plastic bags. You might augment it if you have various conditions with, like, you know, gauze or a ace bandage and whatnot. If you get a chance and you're really interested in it, I would take a wilderness first aid class. The Green Mountain Club, which is here, by the way, in back, holds them. And if you're interested in joining the GMC, my friends here from the GMC can tell you about the club. I'm on the board of the club. I can also tell you about the club in depth. Okay, so what has changed in the past 20 years? Well, one thing you'll see a lot of if you go hiking these days are trekking poles. You use trekking poles?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you do. There are all kinds of different types. This is one particular type. It's a collapsible pole, and it's nice because you can stow it easily in your backpack in a side pocket, and it's great for travel and stuff because it'll fit in your luggage. So the reason why this is a good aid in particular for people over 60 is that trekking poles are really good for taking the load off your knees when you descend the hill. So it's just like a cane, sort of, but it really does help in just relieving the stress on your knees. So less pain, that's good. I use them going uphill. I find that they're useful for balance because even though I'm in good shape, I have some balance issues, right? And so I view them almost like a banister, like on a staircase. They're just an extra handhold that you can hold onto.
Stream crossings.
And
Stream crossings.
yeah, they're also good. That's a good point. For stream crossings. If you can't see your feet under the water, they give you another point of contact when you're walking through a stream. And they help prevent you from slipping even if you're about to go down. So it's a useful thing. And if you hike on the AT, they're good for like moving snakes off the trail and stuff like that. Luckily, we don't have any of those in Vermont. Okay. So another big change is that people now use tape, a lot of tape. Remember moleskin, those thick pads? They were terrible. They always scrunched up in your shoe. They never stayed on. This is something called leukotape, and it's a medical tape. You buy it on Amazon. It costs about $10 a roll. Roll lasts a year or more. And I slap this on my heels before every hike. Actually, it'll stay on for days. And I haven't had a heel blister in years, right? And that's a really good thing. And what's nice about it is that it's very thin, and so it doesn't scrunch up. It'll stay on. It has a sticky glue on the back. That's pretty good. There are other types of tape like rock tape. If you do like tape your knees and whatnot, that also work pretty well. And that's a change. Somewhat of a change. I mean, I really don't know anyone who uses moleskin anymore, and this is really good stuff. Okay, so I talk about it in the book. And the other thing that people also do is they lubricate their feet. This is an old trick from winter hiking. Well, if you get friction in a spot on your foot, I happen to use the sort of cheap stuff, right? The Vaseline generic. I'll just put I get some abrasion a little bit on the balls of my feet sometimes. I'll just put a little Vaseline on top. That's it. Just takes the friction away. And the thing that causes blisters is friction. That's really the thing that causes friction. What happens is your skin has multiple layers. What happens is when you have friction, the layers separate. And that pocket fills up with liquid. That's a blister. Just want to avoid that if you can. The other big development is that footwear has become a lot softer, right? And so this also has reduced sort of the blistering action. Now, I don't have a bone to pick. You can wear whatever shoes or footwear you want. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of different types. But in the past, we had big, heavy leather boots. The heavy boot has a very stiff shank inside, and it's heavy as hell. And when it gets wet, it gets even heavier. Okay, but what evolved were people invented a different kind of sort of boot called a mid. This is called a mid-height boot, which gives you some ankle coverage, which protects your feet from rocks and whatnot, and gives a tiny little bit of support. But it's much, much lighter. They're really lightweight. And these happen to be waterproof, but a lot of people have switched to non-waterproof footwear. And one of the reasons they can do that is because the lighter fabrics dry really quickly. And because they're soft, there's a lot less friction even if the shoe is wet when you're wearing it, so you don't get blisters. It's kind of an interesting thing. Now, again, people have different preferences, and there's no right or wrong, but it's worth thinking about if you're hiking. What kind? This is another type of another mid, which is a little lower. Again, it comes over the ankles, and it's actually a pretty stiff, burly shoe, but lighter weight and not waterproof. Now you'll also hear something called a zero drop shoe, and so when you think of shoes, think of high heels. You know how there's a different height between the back of the shoe and the front of the shoe. Okay, that's called the drop. Okay, and zero drop shoes, there's no difference. They're just flat. So the heel is at the same level as your toes. The other development is that the toe boxes are much larger. They're almost, when these first came out, I wrote a negative review about them because they look like clown shoes. And I've since kind of gotten to adopt them. They give you sort of a much more stable plant because it's flat. Okay, compare your street shoes versus, high heels or something like that. You're less wobbly. And they can be an interesting option if you want to try them. These are very thin and lightly, have very thin soles. There's another thing you'll see, which are maximum cushion trail. These are called trail runners, and they're kind of like walking on air, but they limit your ground feel. I mean, I happen to really like feeling the ground, almost like claws, with my toes on the ground. This sort of limits that a little bit. But if you have bad knees or ankles, these can really be a nice panacea. Okay, questions there? No? Okay. One thing also that's developed in recent years is shoes have kind of, actually I'll mention a couple things. The durability of these shoes was really good. They'll last you 1,000 miles. You also can't buy shoes that are resolable anymore, boots that are resolable anymore. In fact, you can barely buy boots anymore because so many of the companies have gone out of business. And so if you buy these shoes, you should expect to replace pretty much every 250 to 350 miles. Okay, so that, I'll go through 3 of these a year. Okay, which is not so great because if you think about the cost, it kind of is a wash cost-wise. A pair of boots will cost about three times these. Because these are cheaper and they have less structure inside, people routinely augment them with insoles. And this is another good thing for a more mature hiker because it gives you more support. Okay, so we could talk about foot issues, but I've had in the past what's called metatarsal pain, where I get pain in the base of my toes, excruciating. And I've managed to heal that by augmenting with certain types of insoles. And the same with plantar fasciitis, when your Achilles heel gets inflamed. These insoles will protect you against that. They provide a stiffer arch than what comes in the shoes. Okay? Do people use insoles? Yes, you're nodding your head.
I have prescription insoles.
Yeah,
'cause
prescription
my
insoles.
plantar fasciitis is so bad.
Yeah, really, that's bad. It's bad. So those are some things on the footwear side. Then one of the big changes in the past 5 years really, has been the way we go to the bathroom outdoors. Okay? And leave no trace, which is the practice of not leaving trash in the wilderness or human waste in the wilderness, has finally caught on and seems to be pretty well adopted at this point. The idea basically is that if you have to do a number 2 outdoors, you want to either bury your toilet paper or pack it out in a Ziploc. Okay, and for the longest time that wasn't the case. I mean, I have to credit the through hiking community, people who are doing the Appalachian Trail, for really popularizing some of the bathroom etiquette. One option, which I'm not going to demonstrate today, is people also use bidets on the trail, where they screw basically a special attachment onto a soda bottle and spray their nether regions to clean themselves. I haven't really adopted that yet. I'm still a toilet paper guy. But what people do is when they after they've gone to the bathroom, or even before, they'll use a shovel. It's called a trowel. It's ultralight, and they'll dig a hole. You dig a hole 6 inches deep, and you shovel your toilet paper in and your poop, and you bury it. Actually, mix it all around. Mix it around with a stick, and bury stuff. And that's sort of the new etiquette these days. And this will make you fit in if you do this. And it has a little, a lot of these have little holes, so you can clip them to the outside of your backpack.
Oh, and then you
Wait.
go, cool.
Okay. What ladies sometimes do, this is also popular with some ladies, is instead of toilet paper, they'll use something called a Kula cloth, which is an antimicrobial cloth that you can use instead of toilet paper to dry yourself. Okay? And again, you clip this to the outside of your backpack. And if you're walking down the trail, you'll see them. You'll see these triangles attached to all the ladies' packs. Yeah, oh gosh. And
I just ran into some unburied human poo right at the Robert Frost Trail
that's
yesterday.
awful. That's awful.
It was awful.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
awful.
Kate's dog ate it.
That's bad.
We have no trace. Thank you.
Exactly.
He was helping.
Exactly. And then these dry in the sun. That sterilizes them, so you can actually use them over and you can wash it too. And then the third major change is
Yes.
they're called different things: personal urinary director or female urinary director. And this is basically lets you pee like a man.
Yeah.
So basically, you pee into this. This is for women primarily. You literally unzip, stick it in, pee into it, and out shoots the stream. And they do require some practice in the shower before you take it on the trail. But again, the first time I saw this, I was on a hike with like 9 guys and a woman. And we all lined up to go to the bathroom, and she walked right up, unzipped her pants, and out it came. And I was like, oh my God. But they're commonplace now. And I'm told they're also really handy if you go to any place that has porta potties. You don't want to sit down on that porta potty. This is a good way to avoid that.
Interesting.
So, interesting.
Do you know about she pants?
She pants. No, I don't.
So I don't have a pair, but my friend has a pair and she loves them. And there is a zipper in the crotch for women.
Oh.
So you don't have to drop your pants
Yeah.
into the mud or the wet
Exactly.
grass or whatever.
The branding of the company is NARA, G-N-A-R-A.
Thank you.
It used to be She Fly. And
Oh, yeah, She Fly.
G-N-A-R-A, NARA.
N-A-R-A.
NARA, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're out in Colorado now.
Excellent.
Started here in Vermont.
Really? How does it count?
Using marketing.
Maybe
I
not.
think it was out of St. County.
Okay, this is another big development. Really,
What's
the
that?
past 10 years. I once wrote an article, believe it or not, should you take your cell phone on a backpacking trip? And I look at that and I go,
Those were the
"Wow,
days."
those were the days where I don't want to be connected, don't live, anyway, so we can't live with these things anymore. Live without them. And one thing I'll go through the things that they replace, but one thing is a camera. This is a great camera. It's a great camera. I used to lug all this camera equipment with me. Don't do that anymore. Just use my cell phone. The other big thing is, of course, search and rescue. You can call for help. And that's a useful thing as we age. You never know what's going to happen. One thing that's worth mentioning about calling for help is the time it takes for help to arrive. So if you see that I'm carrying a lot of seemingly unnecessary things in my backpack, it's because the duration of the wait time on a trail is significantly longer than it is in a city. So, when I lived in Boston, got a long time ago, the emergency response time was like 7 minutes. It was incredible. So now, if you're on the trail, you should calculate it will take search and rescue 1 hour for every 15 minutes from the trailhead from your car. So if you go hiking for an hour, it will take, on average, and I've benchmarked this myself, search and rescue 4 hours just to get to you. So if I stress bringing extra stuff so you can wait it out, That's why. And it could be as simple as you sprain your ankle, which is actually the number one injury that occurs with hikers, and in which search and rescue is called out for. And there are all kinds of other things that happen too. But it takes a while, and you need to be prepared, and you need to be prepared even to stay out overnight, right? And that's where the extra insulation or clothing as well as insulation on the ground comes into play. Now, there are ways you can mitigate that. You can hike with another person, which helps. At least they'll be with you, and you can share their gear. You can leave a trip plan, which I go into great depth in the book about what to include and who to give it to. That way people will know that you're missing and haven't come back, and they'll be able to send people to where you are. So if you find yourself hurt, stay on the trail. Stay on the trails in your trip plan, because that's where search and rescue is going to go. Okay. Then let's talk about navigation. So we all know about Google navigation. Google navigation, you type in your destination and it says, turn north out of the parking lot. What the hell's that? Where's north? Anyway, infuriates me. But you can download maps now. There are all kinds of apps, All Trails and something called Gaia GPS and Avenza, which is what the GMC uses. You can download maps to your smartphone, and they have one great benefit over a map and compass, which is you can hit the phone and it will tell you exactly where you are within 50 feet. Okay, which is a great thing. You can see it on the trail with the map display, and that doesn't mean you can hike out in time before dusk, but it's a good thing for knowing where you are. That's a great thing. One thing it's worth knowing about the apps. So All Trails is a very popular app that has suggested hikes and routes and reviews of the hikes. A lot of the information in All Trails is crowdsourced, and it's not necessarily the most reliable information. And so what I tell people, especially anybody really, doesn't matter how old you are, is use a guidebook. A guidebook will have accurate, if you would, reviewed instructions for trails and where to go. And so that's what I do most of my hiking out of, instead of All Trails. All Trails is useful in some ways. You can look at sort of recent trail conditions and whatnot. But again, you have no idea who these people are who wrote this stuff, what their experience is. So when using these apps, you have to be a little bit skeptical or prudent in how much you trust them. So that's why I like paper maps, because they're curated, is probably the right word. They're republished periodically and updated, whereas the information that goes in the All Trails is never updated. It lives there forever, like some of my old articles. So, but a huge innovation, and as you can imagine, a big deal. Now, of course, the problem with a smartphone is that if I drop it, it'll break. Or if I drop it in the drink, actually with this phone, it's kind of funny. The first weekend I had this phone, I dropped it in a wild river in New Hampshire. It's waterproof for 10 seconds or something like that. I grabbed it out. But they're fragile, right? So, it's good to have multiple sources of information that you can refer to. It's handy to look at one of these things quickly, or you might have several functions on it. And there are all kinds of apps you can get for it, like Peak Finder. You can figure out what the mountains are and what the plants are that you're looking at. But they are not necessarily hardened for outdoor use. Okay.
Phil,
Yeah.
question. So, is there data on All Trails accuracy? I'm just curious because for major trails, it seems to align well with guidebooks around here anyway.
They've been purchasing curated information increasingly, but it's not necessarily just the trail information. So you'll also see all kinds of herd paths and bushwhacks that are not official trails, right? And you're on your own. That's literally off-trail hiking. But the issue is really the reviews. It's the reviews.
Yeah,
You're reading them, how strenuous is it? You know, I can run up Mansfield, but doesn't mean you can, right? So it's that kind of thing. Right?
How'd you know?
So, now here's the device that I carry. Not because I'm older, it's because I hike alone a lot. And even when I'm hiking with a group, it gives me a kind of a nice bailout option. This is a satellite messenger. And this is hardened for the outdoors. And so what it is, it's basically, you should think of it as it's a device that will let you text or send email to, first of all, it'll let you send a distress message. There's a button here called SOS. It's actually a cap on top, which I can press, and this will send the message to a satellite, to a data center manned by Garmin, which is the company that owns it. And they'll activate the local search and rescue group in your area with your GPS coordinates. Okay, and it's magic. And it costs about $400 one time to buy. You can get it on sale at REI. And it cost me $11 a month service, which is a lot cheaper than a cell phone, right? It's a handy little gizmo. It also lets you, if you want, you can actually just send emails or text messages to any of your friends. So it will actually take phone numbers, and you can even receive messages. So I'll get a message that says, bring milk home, tonight after your hike, right? Or I can send a message like, we'll meet you at the hogback, like that kind of thing. So it's useful. It's good for groups if you're separate, you have multiple groups on a mountain and you want to communicate. So it's a handy little device, but it's pretty nice if you're an older hiker because it gives you sort of an ace in the hole. Now, what happens if you're not conscious? You have to be conscious to use it. Even better, you can set these things up so that they track you. Okay, you may or may not want that. This is back to my, should I bring a cell phone on my backpacking trip? But you can set it so that every 10 or 15 minutes, it sends a signal to the satellite, and your friend who's tracking you can see where you are. So if you suddenly stop for 8 hours, you're not moving, they can send you a message or they can send out, search and rescue. So they can find you, which is useful, even if you're not awake.
Does that add to the $11 a month? Does that add a larger cost?
It's priceless. It does,
No
but
money would be too much.
it's priceless. So it's a nice gizmo. It works about 95% of the time. It doesn't work in deep canyons all the time and heavy tree cover. But it's a nice kind of ace in the hole. I keep mine, for good or ill, I keep mine off most of the time. Some people turn them on when they start hiking and have all the tracking set up, whatnot. But it's a useful thing. I mean, I find it, the reason I originally got one of these things is when I hiked across Scotland a couple times, which is just like in the middle of nowhere. And it was just nice to be able to send a message once a day to my mom to let her see where I was. So, okay. And then, so that's a useful thing. And then the final thing I'm just going to mention, as we get older, I guess we get a little weaker and our balance is a little bit off. One huge change is our ability to filter water that we find on the trail. So if you think about carrying a bottle of water, like an algae, 1 liter Nalgene bottle, weighs 2.2 pounds. So you have 2 or 3 of those, or if you have a hydration system with 3 liters, that's a lot of weight. And again, you have to do a certain amount of planning when you're looking at your maps and planning out a hike, to ask yourself, can I cut back on the amount of water I carry and filter water while I'm hiking? In the past, we had these giant pump filters. I don't know if you've ever seen those. They're incredibly heavy, they're expensive. You can now get a filter that you literally, this is a filter which will get all the nasties out. You literally screw it onto a bottle. So you go to the stream or a pond, fill up your bottle, stick this on top, screw it on tightly, open the cap, drink it down. Okay? So it's a way, again, it requires some upfront planning if you're on a long hike. These are really useful if you're backpacking, right? But also for longer day hikes, right? If you know there's a water source along the way. And so this one costs about $40. Oh. This one costs about $25, same company, it's from Sawyer. What people do is they fill these soft bottles up. It's really nice as you can carry extra of these. So if you have to go some distance without water, you can have a whole bunch of these and fill them up, and they roll right up, and so they're not bulky. But what they do is they fill these up and then squeeze the water out into a different container, and that way they don't have to drink right from the filter. Right? And that's this is a big innovation. It came out about 10 years ago, and the technology that it uses was developed for filtering out impurities during kidney dialysis. And some smart guy said, or woman, said, whoa, let's make these into water filters for backpackers, and that was it. And so this will filter out protozoa and what's the word? Giardia, yeah, things that will make you sick in Vermont. It's not good. You won't filter out fertilizers, okay, which is like won't filter out insecticides like Roundup, right? Or chemical stuff. Won't necessarily won't filter out viruses that you get near urban areas. So don't try to filter water, next to some of the cow pastures or right outside Burlington. But if you're up in the mountains on the lawn trail or something like that, no problem. No problem at all.
Have they figured out how to get the taste out of those soft plastics yet?
Yeah, just wash it out with baking soda the first couple of times, and you're all set. Yeah. So, okay. And those are some of the developments. I mean, what I think you can take away from this is things are lighter. A lot of the changes are make it easier for people to get out at any age. It's easier to find out information. It's easier to get help. But I still think it's so important to plan out your hikes and try to go with other people as much as possible. So we have folks, Ellen and Dwight from the Green Mountain Club here, and they actually lead hikes locally. And if you're interested in finding out about the club, there's information in the back, and they can tell you about how to become a member. It's a great club. So, I mean, I hiked the Long Trail in 2008, and just love hiking in Vermont. These guys don't necessarily focus on just the Long Trail, but really the Long Trail system as a whole. And this is a great area for doing that. And they also do a lot of trail work to maintain those trails. It's a really valuable asset. So anyway, any questions?
Basic comment about clothes.
Oh, yeah.
You
Good.
missed the whole
I did.
living cotton,
Yeah.
et cetera thing.
Thank you. I didn't miss that. So when you're out hiking, there are a couple of things you want to worry about. One is sun protection, especially as we get older. Our skin is not as resilient as it once was. So it does pay to cover up, especially with suntan lotion or headgear, right, hats. When it comes to clothing, there is an argument to not wear cotton, okay? Now, there's certain circumstances where cotton is okay, but there are a couple of things you need to know about cotton. Cotton has a very low sun protection factor, ultraviolet protection factor. So it's sort of a UPF of 4, whereas a sun hoodie is specifically designed for staying out in the sun has a sun protection factor, ultraviolet protection factor of 50. So that means basically if you have a protection factor of 50, 2% of the ultraviolet light gets through. If it's 4, it's something like 95% gets through, which will burn you. So cotton is not necessarily a good shirt, let's say, to wear outside. It's even worse when it gets wet. A wet cotton T-shirt has provides half the sun protection as a dry one. Okay. Now there's certain circumstances where it can be okay. It's very hot out, for instance, and you're in a very dry place, and you want a wet shirt so you can cool off. But you have to weigh that against the sun protection issues, right? The other thing about cotton, and I'll add any kind of clothing made with wood fiber, so bamboo, tencel, am I missing some? Yeah, is that they retain moisture, and that can be good in certain circumstances. But if it gets cold out, that moisture will cool you, and they don't dry on you while you're wearing them. Whereas if you're wearing, say, synthetic polyester or nylon shirt or pants, they will dry with your body heat. And so they're really preferable. They also last a lot longer than cotton. And wool is another option. It's a matter of preference. I like synthetic clothing just because it lasts longer. I destroy a wool shirt a season easily. Sometimes in 2 or 3 outings, they just fall apart. But the reason people like them is that they're a little softer, and they don't smell if you wear them for a couple of days consecutively. Okay, or although to tell you the truth, it only takes me about a day and a half to stink up a wool shirt. So that's sort of the thing about cotton. When you're out hiking, it really does make sense to layer your clothing. So this is a cotton T-shirt, so don't look at this one. But I'll wear a synthetic shirt, and if it's cooler out, I'll use what's called a mid-layer, which is a fleece sweater that I'll wear on top of that. And if it's really cold or windy, I'll put another layer on top of that. And I tend to use very thin layers, so I can put even another layer on top of that or take it off. So I have a very easy mechanism to limit the amount I perspire. You don't want to perspire that much because it makes you drink more, but that perspiration also cools you. And so you want to limit how much cooling goes on in certain circumstances. If it's hot out, you want to be cool. If it's cold out, you don't want to be cool. It's how evaporation works. When moisture evaporates off your skin, even if you're wearing a wet shirt, it pulls energy out of your body. And so if you're in cold weather, that moisture will actually cool you and won't fatigue you, basically. So that's how hypothermia works. Okay? Is that too much information? Okay. Question?
Do you carry a battery pack with you?
Yeah, I do. I have a 10,000 milliamp battery.
Because that's
pack.
one of the downsides of the cell phone.
Absolutely. Cell phone. So there's a new plug standard that a lot of the companies are standardizing on called USB-C.
Right.
And so it pays to actually try to get a phone. Of course, the iPhone doesn't have any of this. Your satellite communicator, your headlamps. If you can get that plug, that's good, right?
The new iPhones are all USB-C.
Yeah, that's what I think.
It was mandated in Europe, and they're just doing it across the board now.
Yeah, I'm just not willing to buy a new one just yet. Questions? Yeah. Well, great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.